What's up, everybody? Welcome to SLC Puck. I'm your host, Austin Facer, and if you're watching this episode, just know that what you're really seeing is take 2 of episode 22, because much to my chagrin, I did the entire episode tonight. It's Monday, July 8th. I did this whole episode. I had everything planned out really well. I had the outline. I made extemporaneous points. I thought I had some funny rantings and ravings. I thought it was one of the better episodes. It might have been the best episode ever of SLC Puck, but you'll never hear it. It's been lost. It went down the memory hole, and we will never hear that episode again. It wasn't until I finished the episode and totally uploaded it and shared it on social media that I realized I did the entire thing effectively talking to nobody. My microphone wasn't turned on. My soundboard wasn't going on. I was just... That was what you saw if you saw the first version of this episode. So thanks for coming back. Thanks for being here for episode 22 of SLC Puck. I had a really awesome time this weekend seeing the subscriber count go above 500. That was really cool. So I appreciate you guys. And it happened without me having to shave my chest hair. Isn't that the cool thing? Maybe if you get lucky, I'll do another funny bit like that for you guys eventually. The goal at this point, now that we've surpassed 500, is 10 million. And when we get there, I will shave something into my chest hair, okay? That's my promise to you. So again, if you're following the show, I appreciate you guys for being here. Like, comment, subscribe. If you want some cool merch, I've seen some people share pictures of the merch they bought from me, and I really appreciate it. Super cool. That stuff's available at slcpuck.shop. I've got a cool new shirt design out right now. A few touches to some of the other stuff. Lowered all the prices. It's basically at cost now, so get in on it while you can. But if you want to wait, just so you know, I'm going to have a really cool Yeti design coming out soon. I think you guys are going to like for the summertime. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So we're rolling. I can see that my sound is working now, so we're just going to plow right into it. We're coming to you on Monday. I know you guys are probably used to the usual cadence of Sunday, Wednesday shows, but coming to you on Monday because I was gone over the weekend and went up to the lake to celebrate the 4th of July weekend, which means I owe you guys an episode, and it also meant that I missed the development camp Friday at the Delta Center. And from what I can tell, just watching some of the highlights, reading some of the stories in the media about it, seeing what you guys have to say on social media, it sounds like for the most part it was a pretty good time. A lot of good action, a lot of goals. Everybody loves to see that. But this is what I would say to you guys, and there's a couple things I want to touch on in this episode. But the first thing I want to talk about is really the players, and I'll talk about one player in particular. But what I want to advise you guys on is to not get too attached to the guys who played in this game. Because for the most part, I think it's safe to say a lot of these guys won't even have a cup of coffee in the NHL. Meaning that they might never, ever suit up for the Utah Hockey Club. It would be like going to a Salt Lake City Stars scrimmage and saying, I can't wait for these guys to really light it up for the Utah Jazz. That doesn't really happen that often. It's kind of a far stretch. A lot of the guys that you saw in the development camp scrimmage are probably going to be minor league hockey players for the majority of their career, with some exceptions. T.J. Ginla is not going to be a career minor league hockey player. Obviously, he was the Utah Hockey Club's first-round pick, first ever selection in the NHL draft. He's going to have an NHL career eventually. He's just 17 now, so it's going to be a little bit before he makes it to the big leagues. But the other guys who play in the game, you probably won't hear from again. The difference again between like a top flight NHL player and a guy who mires away in the ECHL or the AHL is pretty vast. And again, I think the comparison there is like NBA and G League players, minor league baseball, Major League Baseball players. Let me put it this way: I don't think there were any LeBron Jameses, maybe T.J. Ginla, but I don't think for the most part you saw many LeBron Jameses playing in this game. I think you saw a lot more Bronny James guys playing in this scrimmage. But one guy who stood out in particular, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about him, was Danil But. But what you say? But that's actually his name. I was trying to think of a funny pun. But Danil But sort of stole the show in the scrimmage. He scored 4 goals. And overall, for all of development camp, the coaching staff named him the MVP of their little get-together. So I think he's worth talking about because I think he's a guy you might eventually see suit up for the Utah Hockey Club or at least have some sort of a role in this team's future, maybe as a trade asset or something. But just to give you a little lowdown on Danil But, and if you were at the scrimmage, he stood out, and I'm sure you're interested in knowing a little bit more about him. But he's a 19-year-old guy. He's very young. He's from Russia. Big dude. He's 6'5". He's very tall. He's 200 pounds of pure vinegar and bitterness or whatever, however the expression goes. Big dude though. And right now he's playing for Yaroslav Lokomotiv in the KHL. That's the Russian Professional Hockey League. It's his hometown team. He came up in the on the development, ritual or routine for that team. He came up playing for their teenage team and eventually moved up to play in their big league team. He was drafted 12th overall by the Arizona Coyotes, so he was one of the last first-round picks that the Coyotes ever made in their time in Arizona. And he's a big dude. But here's the thing. Scouts really like his offensive ability. And it's kind of rare for big dudes to have his skill set in hockey. I think for the most part, big guys, tall guys who are 6'5", generally do not play hockey. Hockey is not a sport that lends itself very well to tall guys. I will shout out Adam Davis, my teammate at Viewmont. He was a tall guy. He was a great player. There's not a lot of guys who do well, though, especially at that height playing hockey. A lot of times they struggle to skate. They struggle to handle the puck. A lot of big guys can have a nice slap shot, but for the most part, big guys don't really do that well in hockey. But Danil But seems to be an exception, and that's why a lot of scouts like him. Kind of the scouting reports across the board, the scouts were very complimentary of his stick handling ability to see the ice. They thought he was a pretty decent finisher. All this good stuff that people really look for. Big body, gets in front of the net, clears space, but when he gets the puck, can make really interesting, good decisions with it. And I think he was someone that caught a lot of people's eyes, and especially in this last in this scrimmage that he had at the Delta Center on Friday. And just to tell you a little bit more about him, he is in Russia right now. He's playing for a pretty good team there, and being that he's only 19, he doesn't see a ton of playing time right now. But maybe in the next year, maybe 2 that he's there, he'll see a little bit more playing time and be a bigger contributor on the team. Still, this last season playing for the Lokomotiv in the KHL, choo-choo, right? I wonder if that's their thing. But he had 10 goals, 11 assists for 21 points in 55 games. I think this is his most interesting little stat line. He was a plus 11, which means his team scored 11 times more than the other team when he was on the ice for the length of the season, which is pretty good, especially for a 19-year-old. It means he maybe didn't make too many mistakes. Maybe he was a net positive for his team when he was on the ice. Only had 12 minutes. Maybe that could suggest, either he's a very clean player or could maybe afford to be a little bit more aggressive, depending on how well you watch Russian hockey. And if anyone out there watches Russian hockey, welcome to the show. Guten Tag. That's German. That's a joke. But I think he's going to be an interesting piece, especially doing so well against his peers in the team development camp, in the scrimmage. And again, it's going to be a couple years, I think, before we see him play in Utah. And the indicator for me, and I've tried to be learning a bit more about the process of getting a guy from the NHL draft to playing in the NHL. And, the big indicator to me, from what I can tell, and if you have any more information on this, please sound off in the comments. I'd love to hear it, is the entry-level contract. The fact that he hasn't signed that entry-level contract, to me, is an indicator that the Utah Hockey Club is still going to retain his rights. When it's time to sign him and get him through the minor league process here in North America, that's when things will heat up. But for now, it seems like they're going to keep him at bay in Russia, watch his development there. When you see him sign that entry-level contract, that's when you can expect him to take these steps forward and work his way towards being in the NHL. The problem that Danil But has to deal with, though, is that there's a big logjam at forward for the Utah Hockey Club. There's guys like Clayton Keller, Dylan Gunter, Logan Cooley, other guys who are in the pipeline who are already established in the team or on their way up, and he's going to have to fight for ice time around those guys. But if his development continues, especially at a high level, it's not impossible to think that he might just be like sort of a trade piece that could be interesting to another team who maybe doesn't have the same level of prospects at the forward position. And we saw the Utah Hockey Club do this with Connor Geekie. Connor Geekie obviously was like sort of a pretty well-regarded prospect, but was involved in the Mikhail Sergachev trade. And that ended up being like a pretty important piece to that trade. I think that was something that Tampa Bay found interesting and was willing to pull the trigger on. And, you know, whether Danil But makes it to the Utah Hockey Club or not, he might end up being that effective trade piece to get someone else who might fill a different need on the team. So that's kind of the big takeaway that I got from not being at the scrimmage, but reading about it and sort of seeing what people had to say and reading the social media conversation. But there was another conversation about the scrimmage that I saw on social media that I think is worth talking about. And I think it's going to be a proliferation of stories and conversations you're going to hear the whole first year that the Utah Hockey Club is in business, okay? For the most part, what I saw on social media was that people were a little fussy about the fan experience at the game. I think a lot of people were saying they thought the goal horn was whack and that the music sucked and that some of the sightlines are bad. Well, I have bad news for those of you who voice those concerns. That's going to be what you're going to have to deal with this first year. It just is. I mean, this brand is still very much in infancy. You know, the same way that like the brand and is under construction, the arena is still a work in progress, and it's going to be a few years until it gets full steam ahead. But it's clearly something that's on the front of the minds of the people who are involved with this club. And I thought it was really interesting reading a story and seeing Chris Armstrong, not Bill Armstrong, who's the general manager, but Chris Armstrong, who's effectively his boss. He's the guy Ryan Smith hired, a former, not a former, but a buddy of his who's going to be the president of hockey operations. He's a former sports agent who represented a number of hockey clients, but he's going to serve as the president of hockey operations. And he talked to the media about how important it is to him that they have a good fan experience for the team. And think about it. This guy's job is to basically oversee the general manager, the head coach, the hockey operations, like the product that goes on the ice. He's not involved in like the marketing of the team. Like at least his title doesn't suggest that to me. But probably behind the scenes he is a little bit. It clearly indicates that the marketing of this team is really, really important to Smith Entertainment Group. They really value how people are going to view this team especially when they're in the arena. And that's really going to be something that's going to evolve over the years. It's not going to be great this first year. It's going to be fine. But I take comfort in knowing that the best in the business right now are currently working on this behind the scenes. I've said this ad nauseum. I'm very confident that Yeti is going to be the team name. I'm glad to see a lot of people on social media are also, subscribing to my conspiracy theory, which isn't that much of a conspiracy, by the way. But I'm sure, Doubleday and Cartwright, which is the sports marketing agency that Smith Entertainment Group has enlisted to help develop the brand, is working on a cool logo. They're figuring out how to get these colors involved. I think they're getting purple involved too. But it really encourages me to know that the best of the best are going to work on this. I also happen to know, and he just announced it on social media, so I feel confident saying his name, Brady Hackmeister, who is one of the best graphic designers in the NHL. He was the senior graphic designer for the Vegas Golden Knights. He's also a former nemesis of mine. He played for the Davis Darts when I was playing high school hockey in, the aughts, the 2008 to 2008 to 2010. had some matchups with Brady and the boys over at Davis. He's a great designer, though. He really knows his stuff. He did a lot of great work for the Bees, and he's continued that great work with the Golden Knights. So they've got a good team in place to develop this brand. The issue is going to be getting through this first year. And it's okay because Smith Entertainment Group bought themselves a little bit of time. They've got a logo and a look. That's fine. It's going to work for a year. Here's why they had to deal with this, okay? Because the Coyotes were available right then and there in April. It was now or never to get the Coyotes to Utah. It wasn't like, hey, can you give us some time to come up with a good brand and then we'll come up with an expansion team? No, the Coyotes need to get out of Arizona. If you want them, they're yours. Otherwise, you are never going to get a hockey team. Probably not. The odds are really low. But Ryan Smith took the initiative. He jumped on the ball, got the Coyotes here, and now he's in the process of turning them into a different thing, the Yeti. My theory. And so it's an ongoing development. And I think because they bought themselves some time with this look that you see behind me here, I really hope they take the time to develop something cool and something that's uniquely Utah. And I was reminded of this article that I read when the Seattle Kraken started their first season. And it talks so much about how the team that built that brand really took their time to find something that was uniquely Seattle. This article talked about how they went down to the harbor where the boats docked, and they took notes and they took pictures and they considered the history of hockey in the area. You see that reflected in some of their uniforms that they wore, especially in the Winter Classic. They went down. I think I even remember reading this article. They would go down and record sounds of the horns that the ships made, so they could figure out like a good goal horn based on those sounds. I really hope they do the same kind of work for the Utah Yeti or the Utah whatever. It's going to be Yeti. We all know that. But I hope they really consider the history of hockey in this area, and that helps build the brand. I hope they build something that's fun. If it is Yeti, I hope it's like a fun Yeti with a story that they can follow, like how the Golden Knights have a Golden Knight who goes on this adventure throughout the season and becomes part of the show. They need to make something that's uniquely Utah, and I hope they're taking the time to do that. It's not going to be ready this year. Okay. But here's some things I think you can look forward to in the future, in year 2, year 3, when the Delta Center gets more updated, gets more modernized, gets more suited or equipped better for NHL action. I hope they do things like consider a train horn for the goal horn. Obviously, there's a big railroad history here in Salt Lake City. The Golden Spike was driven into the ground by Ulysses S. Grant, and then a giant spider emerged. Then it took over a city, and Will Smith and Kevin Kline had to stop the spider from destroying the city and overtaking the United States of America. That's a reference to the movie Wild Wild West, by the way, which is one of my guilty pleasure movies. I love that movie. Tell me if you know what I'm talking about, by the way, because that might be a deep cut. But again, maybe they don't need the spider from Wild Wild West, but they should have like a local band do the goal music. I've talked about this on an episode where I went into the goal horn possibilities. YouTube was nice enough to copyright flag that one for me. It's still up though. You can enjoy it. But whatever it is, a Yeti mascot that gets out in the community, that's going to help build the brand. It's not there this year. It's going to be okay though. All right. Don't get too much in a huff over this. All right. I know it's fun to get on social media and complain. We all do it, right? We all sort of say, what's going on? They don't know what they're doing. You're going to hear that a lot, especially this first year. The complaints are going to be a little warranted. The environment may be a little sterile, a little generic, because it is just Utah Hockey Club. There's not like a fun identity to cling on to. And unfortunately, Smith Entertainment Group, Utah Hockey Club, is going to have to deal with some bad press and a lot of people complaining on social media. They know this, all right? It's going to be part of the plan. I am asking you guys as fellow social media users and people who are going to be following the development of this team and its lifespan in Utah, to really just hang in there. Okay. This is going to be this is going to be something that's going to be here for the long haul. This is not just a 1-year experiment. I know it's been the talk over the entertainment district and the renovations to the Delta Center have been heating up with Salt Lake City Council and Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. They're going to ask Smith Entertainment Group to have a 30-year agreement to keep the team here no matter what. They're going to be here for at least 30 years. It's a marathon, not a sprint, okay? So we're going to get through this first year. We're going to get our commemorative Utah hockey merch. We're going to get our pennants. I have a little doll here somewhere. I got a t-shirt. I got all this Utah Hockey Club stuff. And one day it's going to be fun to look at and go, yeah, I remember that year that they played as that. That was kind of weird. That was kind of interesting. But now they're the Yeti, and they've got a sick-ass train horn as their goal horn. They've got a song by Neon Trees as their music. They've got a fun Yeti named Harold who's out in the community doing good and having fun. He rides a motorcycle just like Jazz Bear to community events. And God, I love him. I love what Utah Yeti has become. Just get through the first year, okay? It's going to be okay, everybody. But I just know that that's going to come. Remember, we're here for the long haul. I'm here for the long haul. SLC Puck is here. Even if our episodes go astray, even if we record a damn good episode that has so much ranting and raving, has so many more jokes, is so much more entertaining than this one, it's every way better than the one you're hearing, it doesn't matter. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to do it again and again and again and as many times as it takes until we get it right. I know we have 500 subs. I want 10 million subs. It doesn't matter if we screw up. We're going to keep doing it. And I appreciate you guys for joining me on this journey. I am going to try to upload this episode now. I am desperately hoping that it recorded properly. I can see it is, though. I know this one did. So thanks for sticking in there with me, guys. 500 subs. That's crazy. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you're here for the first time. Again, this is your day one source for everything you need to at least pretend like you know what you're talking about when it comes to Utah hockey. It's a wordy tagline. We'll workshop it a little bit. Don't forget to check out slcpuck.shop for merch, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, guys.